we are mildly interesting guys, and we talk about some stuff. So welcome to the podcast, we call it Joel the Podcast. It's Alex and it's Alex, here for Joel the Podcast. Bzzz. Hello everybody, I'm Alex.
And I'm Alex.
And this is our podcast, Joel. Welcome to episode 98 of Joel the Podcast.
Correct. It's a lot of episodes.
I wanted to... What?
I just said that's a lot of episodes.
That is a lot of episodes. I wanted to let everyone know that Nathan does not owe me $1.
And Alex does not owe me $1. But do you
Although, our NBA bet officially resolved, or not officially, but, it was clinched this week in favor of me, and Nathan already paid me the $1, so, in case anyone was wondering about that. So, but that leads us right into sports, I guess.
Sure.
So let me get out my timer for our sports minute. This was a great idea, doing a sports minute. I'm patting myself on the back for that. All right. This is 6 minutes. Here we go. Ready?
Yes, I am.
So, the NBA playoffs continued. Sadly, the 76ers lost in 7 games to the Hawks. The Nets lost in 7 games to the Bucks. And the Clippers beat the Jazz in 6 or 7 games. So that leaves the 4 teams, those 3 teams, plus the Suns in the final round. Lots of injuries going around this year, so it should be an interesting finale.
I'll be rooting for the Suns because they're the only top 2 seed from either conference that kept my hopes alive in the bet. No one else could come through for me, but the Suns did.
The good news is that no team that's left in the playoffs has won a championship since at least 1960 or something like that.
Wow.
1970s. So
what a exciting time in sports.
Yeah. So I guess we skipped over baseball, but what can you do because our time is up.
Yep. And nothing is happening, so it doesn't matter.
Well, there was one thing, but yeah.
Oh, right.
Let's get into the podcast.
Yeah.
Did we receive any emails this week?
You know what? We did. We received we received 3 emails. Let me start with that.
Holy shit!
And they all come to us, of course, from Cephalopod Master.
Of course.
As expected. But just like receiving 3 emails 1 week after I threatened to carve a wooden duck after receiving no emails, it makes me think that you're making me do that on purpose. Like you had these emails ready to go, and now I have to put in the effort. So,
well, it was actually 2 weeks ago that you talked about the duck.
Well, but the point is at the end of last week, since we hadn't received any emails at that time, that's when it was decided, right? Or was that all 2 weeks ago?
Well, okay, so 2 weeks ago, you said, if we don't receive any emails this week, I'm going to carve a wooden duck and push it off a bridge. And then last week, we hadn't received any emails, so I guess you were supposed to do that, but I obviously you're not going to do that.
Well, it's a longer process. I'm not going to do that yet.
So you do intend to do it at some point?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I'm skeptical that will ever happen, but
we'll see.
We'll see, indeed.
Finish
that catapult first, then we'll talk.
Yeah, well, there's, we'll get to that in some of these emails. Here we go. Let's start off with this first email received some time ago from Cephalopod Master. The subject line of this...
Wait. It actually does matter. How many days ago was it received?
6 days ago. It was received
Okay,
on
so this was
on
before
Tuesday.
you posted episode 97.
Uh,
So this was
that
after...
feels
so
correct.
I'm looking at the videos right now. It is correct. So you posted episode 96 where you threatened to do the wooden duck
Yeah.
June 9th.
Okay.
And you posted episode 97 June 17th, which was 4 days ago.
So June 15th, I suppose. Well, the problem is, at the time of recording, we hadn't received the email.
Yes, I understand. I'm just saying, from his perspective, he sent this email in time to save Joel the Wooden Duck.
In time to save the duck. Well, let's. I know. We'll get to this later in this current series of emails, but be sure to email us again to kind of clarify this. What turns out to be a somewhat confusing situation. But let's get into this email. Here we go. Cephalopodmaster writes, "Hi, Alex and Alex at Joel the Podcast. I have terrible news for you. Did I say, first of all, that the subject line of this email is an absolutely dumbass disaster?
No.
Oh, well, there it is. And he has terrible news for us. But for the sake of suspense, I'm going to start with something that's moderately related news that is not the disaster itself.
Okay.
Got myself a new laptop recently, and with it I was able to recover the files from the older computer, including the spreadsheet on which I've been organizing the Joel Low rating. And it's like capital J-O and then capital E, capital L, capital O. Which doesn't really help me pronounce it any better, so Anyway, so
I think you pronounced it fine.
Sure. I resumed updating the scores and it is now up to date. Here's what I have so far. I just started episode 96 while writing this email, so stuff from that episode is not on the scoreboard yet. And this is a huge spreadsheet with all kinds of stuff on it. But the key... Wait a minute. So the key finding here is that on episode 95, my rating is 5503 and your rating is 5240. But that can't be right, because right immediately afterwards he says, in short, Nathan has 4,910 points and Alex has 5,833 points, putting Alex in a solid lead. So, I mean, genuinely, I have no idea what anything in this spreadsheet is about. But apparently you're in the lead by about, a little over 900 points there, so probably due to all the Joel the games you've been winning.
And probably a few of the episodes that you failed to post.
Well, that's maybe not a real rule. We'll see.
Okay, well, I don't know. That's just my thought.
Unclear. Let's see. Although it wasn't specified in the scoring guidelines, since you yourselves admitted that episode 93 was very bad, I removed 500 points for each of you. That's fair.
I mean, I guess, but I don't know what that accomplishes, since these ratings only mean anything in comparison to each other.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a symbolic show of displeasure rather than trying to to punish us. Really,
fair enough.
So, message received. I'm sure we'll do it again, unfortunately, but
Rip.
You should either make sure to not make bad episodes, or if you do, deny its badness, so that I blame myself for not paying attention to how entertaining the episode was. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Oh man, you're doing all these emoji reactions, and I still only have 6. I never did the update.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Skype updated to allow me. So you could always react with different emotes in Skype,
right?
But there were only 5 or 6 you can actually do, and they updated it to allow any of their emotes. So I'm just trying out different emotes here,
yeah.
Which Nathan, who has the Mac version of Skype, which does not have the update, cannot do. So. Anyway, all right, so, sorry, Cephalopod, about the terrible episode, but, that's what you get with Joel the Podcast.
We'll make sure to pretend they're not bad next time. Okay, now here's the disaster. The Fake Joel podcast has
forgot
gained a
about the
new
disaster.
subscriber.
Oh no.
Yeah, so he's now up to 8 subscribers. There's a screenshot here, and let me first of all make a few comments about this screenshot. My number one comment is that, like, obviously there's the episode titles and stuff which are normal.
Can you turn
Actually,
the camera so I can see it?
I have multiple. Let's talk about this for a little while. Is this a good angle? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. So the primary thing I want to talk about is all these Cyrillic characters. Is your YouTube set to be in Russian? Be sure to email us if that's the case.
Yeah,
you can
that
find
is
our
weird.
email at our website, alexandalex@joelthepodcast.github.io/alexandalex@joelthepodcast.website/index.html. Is your YouTube Russian? And if so, why? Do you speak Russian? Anyway, secondary thing is the Fake Joel podcast has a pretty strong thumbnail game in their videos. Like I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing here. Those look like they're a lot of fun, but like big thumbs down for those titles, you know?
You mean the lack of titles, really?
The complete lack of title, you're right. It's just, Joel's Afro Podcast, episode 19. 0 Russian word, 3 other Russian words. I assume those are views and likes, but
Yes. No, it's views and days ago that it was posted.
Views and days ago. That makes sense. Wow, look at I was about to say, like, 1 day ago, 3 days ago, 4 days ago. Probably this is 1 month ago, or maybe these were like 1 week ago, 3 weeks ago.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah. Oh, look at this word. It is, this one right here is different than that. So this is probably 1 day, 1 week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
Yeah,
1
there you
month.
go.
Look at me learning Russian on the fly. Is that all I wanted to say about this screenshot? I think it is. What, do you have any closing thoughts here?
No, really the only thing that jumped out to me was, aside, like, I didn't even notice the Cyrillic at first, was the lack of titles.
Yeah.
And the thumbnails, I agree that that's one thing about our podcast that I wish was better, but also don't care enough to actually do anything about. Is the thumbnails.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So, and these thumbnails are not like actually good. They're just like not the same image every single time.
Yeah. So I mean, you
Like this-
can email us about that as well. Would you like us to put more effort into the video thumbnails? Disclaimer: whatever you say is going to have absolutely no bearing on what we actually do. But I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So, I guess that's the end of this email, right?
No, there's a bit more down here. So the
Oh.
Fake Joel podcast gained a new subscriber, and as per the rule, you both lost 10,000 points due to this additional subscriber, which you can see. I assume is what you can see in the thing right here. Although none of these losses are actually 10,000 points. There's probably other factors in play there. I guess
I'll just take his word for it that we lost 10,000 points.
Yeah, so, surely it happened. Also, I included the subscribe button to show you that I'm not, in fact, one of the 8 people. Oh, I didn't even notice that. That's a good point. This would say subscribed up here and be gray.
In Russian.
In Russian, yeah. Russian gray. Maybe Katie got around to finding the channel? Who knows? I honestly didn't expect this will actually happen, but I can't imagine this happening again in any near future. I've got to agree with you there. Clearly, there's no way that this channel is going to gain any more subscribers. Honestly, personally, I would be shocked if this additional subscriber was Katie. She probably forgot all about that immediately after the podcast, as she
Almost certainly
purged that experience from her mind. So yeah, this is probably the most substantial email. So that is the end of that one. Thanks for that. A lot of great content, great discussions. Really helping us out with this intro. The next email, however, from Cephalopod Master came to us 3 days ago, this past Friday. The subject line of the email is, "What is that sound?" And the email says, "What is that sound?" And I don't know. Like, I have no idea what this is referring to. That's the whole email.
When did you say this email was sent?
Friday.
Okay, so that was presumably referring to the most recent episode that has been posted.
That's a good assumption. Let's see. I can look at the channel analytics. Did you listen to
this episode?
And I can tell you that all of the views came on Friday. I can also tell you that I did not listen to the entire episode.
I'm just gonna go to a random spot in it and see if I can hear some sound.
Okay.
Here we go. Toilet tag. No. Let's see. We go to a different spot.
All right.
I don't hear anything. So, Cephalopod, if you want to know what the sound is, send us a timestamp, and I'll actually listen to it and see if I can tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Probably from my end. All the extra sounds are always from my end.
Do you wanna speculate briefly what the sound may have been? I feel like someone came downstairs at some point when we were recording, or maybe I'm making that up.
Did you see them?
Yeah, I think I saw them, but it may have been like before the podcast or after the podcast. It wasn't necessarily during the recording.
So somebody did come downstairs while we were recording, but I don't think you would have been able to see them. But I don't think they made any sound that I can remember.
Okay.
Aside from maybe opening and closing the door. It's possible that, like, I think there was a Sixers game last time we were recording. And so you may have been able to hear
shouting
my family cheering or shouting in dismay at the game.
Yeah.
Even though that's pretty quiet down here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll have to. Those are the only things I can think of that it might be. So, yeah, send us a timestamp and I'll tell you for sure.
I don't think this has ever happened before, but I need to use the bathroom, so let's pause for a bit.
Why don't you send me the third email and I'll read it and start reacting to it while you're in the bathroom.
That's a good idea. Should I just forward this to your?
Yeah, just forward it to my personal email.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising that in 97 episodes of this podcast, we've never once had to stop as a result of the bathroom or something like that.
Yeah, incredible, because we're usually so prepared. Unfortunately, this week I was unable, so I'll be back eventually.
All right, so I will start reading this email once again from Cephalopod Master. Subject line: I am a dumbass. He says, "Please make the wooden duck. Dropping off a bridge is optional. Maybe launch the duck with a catapult you have been building. On the point of which, this is a formal request for Nathan to spend an hour working on the catapult. As for the sports minute, I think breadth is better than depth, with special emphasis on anything bizarre or funny that has happened. Sent from Proton Mail Mobile." I guess that's probably been on all the emails, and Nathan just never reads that. Thanks for the email, Cephalopod. As I have said, and I guess I can say it, again with Nathan not even here, this wooden duck is never going to be made, despite what Nathan says. And also, the catapult is never going to be finished, despite what Nathan says. Sorry to break those things, but that's the unfortunate truth about those things. I would love for him to make a wooden duck, though. As for the sports minute, so this is good feedback. I'll try to keep that in mind in the future. I know today we kind of broke that by just talking only about the NBA playoffs and skipping over baseball. Anything bizarre or funny that has happened, we will almost certainly always say stuff like that. It's just usually nothing bizarre or funny has happened in sports, because sports are generally not bizarre or funny. But if you want something bizarre or funny, I think, since Nathan's still not here, I'm just kind of rambling. I think yesterday the Yankees were winning 2-1, and in the ninth inning, which is the last inning, and their pitcher had thrown 8 balls and 1 strike so far in the inning, and the team they were playing, had runners on first and second base, so they were threatening to score runs and pass the Yankees. And the pitcher was not pitching well, like I said, 8 balls, 1 strike, and one of the players for the other team grounded into a game-ending triple play, which is pretty unusual in baseball, to get 3 outs in a single play. But that was kind of, I guess, bizarre, since it doesn't happen that often. So, yeah. I guess I don't really have anything else to say about this email, so thank you, Cephalopod Master, for the email. I'm sure Nathan will have something to say about the wooden duck when he comes back. But like I said, that's probably not going to happen. Also, I guess while I'm just waiting here for Nathan to come back, a podcast-related announcement is that next week we will not be recording an episode because I'll be on vacation. So, sorry, but you got another 1 week wait. We don't have an episode banked. So there will be a week of no episodes being released because there will be no episode recorded. I guess I'm just rambling at this point. What are my thoughts on the Jolo system? I think that's kind of cool. I'm glad that I don't have to do anything for it and it just gets tracked for me. I like that. Like I said, the numbers only mean anything in comparison to each other, so it's interesting that you would just, subtract points from both of us. But yeah, overall, I think it's a cool thing. I love the name Jolo. I wish there was a better way to pronounce it to get both Joel and Elo, but unfortunately there's not. Joelo. Yeah. So, yeah. Breath of the Wild 2 is announced to be coming out next year at E3 this year, which I'm excited for. And they added some Tekken character to Smash. And they announced some Metroid game. And Age of Empires 4, they announced that. That's coming out at some point. Yep. E3. Let me think. What else is going on? I really hope Nathan comes back soon. I don't have a lot more to say. Like Nathan mentioned, send us an email about anything you might have thoughts about. alexandalex@joelthepodcast.github.io/alexandalex@joelthepodcast.website. /index.html. I feel like maybe I'll talk about what we're going to be doing in this episode today. Which is, what does this mean? Sorry, I just got a text. I don't really know what it means. But today we're going to be doing another movie, which is something we don't do too often because we kind of go off the rails on it sometimes. Plus, we're way far into the intro at this point. I don't even know how far in we are. Let's take a look. 23 minutes, yeah. So we'll probably just get the setup for the movie established and then do it another time. But yeah, so thank you in advance to The John Fox for the idea generator, because we'll be using that same idea generator that we've used a number of times before. Wow, he must be taking a shit. He's taking a really long time. In other news, I've been watching The Office again, and let me say, The Office is such a good show. It's my favorite show. I mean, number one, once you've watched the whole thing through one time, you can watch pretty much any episode any time, right? Like, you don't really need too much context, and it's always entertaining. Oh, thank goodness.
All right, I am back. I think to save from going over the same ground twice, we can probably discuss your take on that after the podcast or something like that, and just move on for now.
Yep, I've already announced, since I was just rambling, I've already announced that we won't be recording next week and that we'll be doing a movie this episode, but we've already wasted 25 minutes, so we'll probably just get the setup and intro done. We probably won't do the meat of the movie.
Beautiful.
And also thank you to the John Fox. So,
of course.
Also, so among other things, that's what's been said. So, why don't you go right into the premise?
All right, let's start going through these generator ideas. The first one up, we've got after the death of his wife, a middle-aged man develops an addiction to ice cream, eating it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How do his friends and family intervene?
Meh.
All right, I know we probably won't go anywhere with this unless you have any like great ideas that spring from this, but I have two interesting ideas about this.
Okay. Sure.
And it's really just like little details, not necessarily big story arcs. But either this guy is addicted to ice cream because his wife died in a horrific ice cream accident, and this is his like weird coping mechanism, or he killed his wife with ice cream, and now out of guilt he's now eating ice cream himself.
See, it seems like in both of those scenarios, the opposite would happen. Like if his wife died from a horrific ice cream accident, or if he was guilty from killing his wife from ice cream, in both cases, he would want to avoid ice cream.
Yeah, you would think so, but that's why this is such an interesting story. But anyway, let's move on.
Would be a twist.
Yeah.
The whole first half of the movie, you'd be like, this makes no sense. Why is he...
Yeah.
Why is he... You know, it seems like the ice cream just makes him sad because it reminds him of his wife.
Right.
But then it's like Gone Girl. Have you seen Gone Girl?
I've not.
I guess I won't spoil anything then. It's a pretty good movie. You should watch it.
Sounds good. Here's the next one up. Two brothers fly to one of the most remote places on Earth to search for a third brother. Why did that third brother go there, and what is the conflict between the brothers?
That could be decent.
Okay. I'm not coming up with much right out of the gate. Anything to kick us off, or?
Well, I mean, when I say that could be decent, I just mean I can imagine an actual movie with that premise. Like the ice cream one is like, you know, really weird. It doesn't seem to actually lead to anything. It seems really depressing. Whereas this one, I can imagine at least like, okay, their third brother has, you know, 10 years ago he vanished in search of some ancient artifact, and now they finally found out where he is, so they have to go there. Or, you know, their brother was separated from them at birth, and they finally found out his location after years of searching, and they're going to meet him. Or, you know, their brother left because I don't know, but there could be movies. I can't think. None of those are like super interesting, so we can go to another one. I was just pointing out that I think I could. Seems like more plausible of a movie premise, at least.
This sounds to me like it could definitely be a really cool intro for a National Treasure movie or something in that genre, where like the sidekicks are searching through a like really really popular like. You know, hunting, they're like hiking the length of the Grand Canyon looking for Nick Cage or something like that because he disappeared there a year ago and he's been searching for some ancient artifact or whatever to kick off the next adventure. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Oh man, a magician has grown sick of performing and hates children. What is his breaking point and how does he redeem himself?
What is his breaking point? Well, that's easy to imagine. You know, some kid does something stupid, which happens all the time. Like, you know, some kid, like, accidentally gets in his way and he, you know, all of his, you know, magician stuff falls out of whatever, a suitcase or a bag or
There's like
a box.
A comical sequence where like his trick is ruined and that like ruins his next trick and like knocks over his suitcase, which opens up the false door on the inside, and then like all the, you know,
but this again just sounds like another depressing movie, honestly.
I think this has some promise, but I don't know if we can just like off the cuff come up with anything like with the really great hook to turn it into something fun. You're right.
Let's go to the next one.
All right, next up, two brothers decide to bike across the United States to raise money to cure a rare heart disease called ARVC, a condition their younger brother died from. What problem do they encounter in Utah, and what do they finally talk about from their past because of it? Have we talked about this prompt before? This seems a bit familiar.
I don't specifically remember this prompt.
Huh. I wonder if the heart disease thing is like, I wonder if this generator puts together little snippets of phrases. Maybe the heart disease thing has come up in the past.
So this is clearly, the weird thing is, this premise is clearly set up to be a travelogue.
Yeah.
But they just mention a problem in Utah. Like, that's not how a travelogue works.
It's like
you have problems.
This drama culminating in the Utah incident, which forces them to discuss the trauma from their past.
The movie, like, the movie is just like 10% intro, then like 80% Utah, and then 10% the rest of the way goes fine. That's like the whole movie.
Alright, let's see what else we got. Maybe we can just fill the entire rest of this episode, like,
talking about different premises.
Briefly riffing on a premise and then moving on.
Alright, that sounds like actually good, but we should spend a bit more time than we have so far. So, let's get the next prompt and let's try and spend like 5 minutes on each one.
Alright, here we go. A collector of rare books discovers he is allergic to books. How does...
What?
How does this affect his career? And why does his wife blame him for the allergy?
Okay, this is great. Okay, so first of all, you're a collector of rare books.
Yeah.
So, presumably, you've collected some books. How do you just then, somehow, now you find out that you're allergic to books?
Yeah.
I mean, I blame this guy. I'm even not just his wife. I blame this guy for not knowing that he had a book allergy while being a book collector.
He started off, maybe in his teens, developed a very mild reaction to a book, and then, decided to collect books as a career and just continued to, worsen his condition until now he's, terminally ill from a book allergy.
Maybe he always handles his books with protective equipment because they're rare books and he doesn't want to damage them. And so he was always protected from the allergies. But then it's his fault because he bought a novel, just at an airport bookstore, and that's how he found out he was allergic.
He's like, I've never actually read a book. So he tries to read one, and then it's like his the prize of his collection, worth millions, and he has an allergic reaction and sneezes all over the book and ruins its mint condition. And his wife is like, that was our retirement savings. You just ruined us financially.
How does this what's an interesting way that this could affect his career? Because presumably if you found out that you were allergic to books, you could, and the reason it never happened to you before is because you were wearing protective equipment.
Right.
You would just wear protective equipment while
right.
holding books.
Right.
and it wouldn't really affect your career very much.
I'm imagining if this was a true story, I feel like the thing that would happen, the reason you would be hearing about it is because this person went to medical school and like devoted themselves to curing book allergy.
Uh-huh.
And it was like an inspirational story of like this book collector like taught himself from his book collection to be a doctor and cured
Right.
his book allergy and cured his wife's blindness and
Honestly,
invented...
actually, this guy seems like a side character. Like,
Yeah.
the real story is, you know, a extremely rare book has been discovered in somewhere, and only this charming, athletic archaeologist can go get it. But the problem is he doesn't know anything about rare books, so he has to enlist this zany rare books expert who is allergic to books to help him on his quest for this book.
That's brilliant.
Which is definitely much more plausible movie premise. But and then you just make a spin-off movie about like that tells the backstory of this.
Right.
That's what this movie is. This is the backstory of the book guy from the other movie.
Right. Which, I mean, to me, that feels like, you know, by default, this movie just wouldn't be as good as that other movie because it would be like the you know, the sequel after the first one was a smash hit that focuses on the character that everybody loved, but everybody loved him because he was like not the focus.
Right.
And then it was just bad.
Everyone thought he was funny.
Yeah.
He's like a funny character because there's so many comical situations you can put a rare book expert who's allergic to books in. But the problem is once you make him a serious character, no one can actually take him seriously.
Right. Well, okay, yeah, a lot of promise there. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Next. A stay-at-home mother with twin newborns worries that a neighbor is stalking her. What makes her call the police, and how is her life threatened? Seems like it could be a good like horror movie.
Yeah, but also the real premise is her neighbor's just doing normal stuff, and this woman is just interpreting it as him stalking her.
Neighbor waves hello when she pulls into the driveway.
He's like outside mowing his lawn, and you see her like fervently looking through like cracked blinds like out at him like he's mowing his lawn. So sinister.
Be a really like sad story too, because like clearly that person is not good at childcare.
Yeah.
I'm imagining the twin newborns are actually like 16 years old and she's just completely delusional.
They're actually just like poorly drawn dolls.
Oh, tragic. All right. Yeah, I don't know if we can get much more out of that.
No, we can. We've come up with a very sad story, but we definitely can make it not sad.
Yeah.
Okay, so she thinks her neighbor is... Right, okay, here's what it is. So the first half of the movie, the neighbor's acting kind of weird, and she's like, oh, the neighbor is stalking me, and as the viewer, you're led to believe that, but then halfway through, it's like a twist, like, oh, you know, the neighbor is actually a undercover FBI agent who was sent there to protect you, and you're actually
cool.
in danger from something else.
From the newborns, who are secret agents.
Did this prompt say a single mother, or did I make that up?
It says a stay-at-home mother. So she's not necessarily a single mother, even though I think everything we've said so far is kind of that sense.
Right, because in my head now, you know, the romance in this movie is the FBI agent and the woman falling in love.
Right.
As he protects her.
And the husband just comes home and is like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, like, it doesn't really make any sense if there's a husband.
You're right.
But also, it doesn't make sense for her to be a stay-at-home mom if she doesn't have a husband.
Right. Maybe she's just, like, independently wealthy, like, inherited a bunch of money. And, like, some guy was into her for the money, and it was a messy divorce, and now she's all paranoid about all men, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah. It's tricky to do independently wealthy because nobody can relate to an independently wealthy person. So it has to be
oh,
like
the poor billionaires.
yeah, it has to be like she was like living a normal life
Yeah.
and then her grandmother just died and surprisingly left her all this money and she was like, "Well, I'm not going to like, buy a big mansion or whatever. I'm just going to kind of continue living my life and use these billions, for, I'm not gonna live lavishly, basically, and like she's uncomfortable with having that much money.
Yeah, and that leads to. I mean, that can be both sides of the thing. That's why she's so paranoid about the neighbor, and also why somebody would be after her in the first place for real.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. And so yeah, okay, that's great. And then and the FBI agent doesn't know that she's rich. I guess that doesn't make much sense.
Well, they don't have to necessarily know. They just know that somebody is. They got a tip that some suspicion that somebody is after this woman, and they're like, they don't know why. There's like a side plot of them like they're like combing through her file, and they're like, she's just a normal person. What's going on? Although if it was like
it
truly the
seems implausible
FBI,
to me that the FBI would know that there's a threat against your life and not know that you had inherited billions of dollars.
they just didn't happen to like look at her tax returns, and yeah. Well, I don't know. Needs a bit of polish in that respect, but yeah, okay. We did kind of pull something out there. I'm a bit surprised.
FBI agent played by Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
The woman is played by who would be a good actress for this? No one comes to mind. Kristen Wiig is always funny.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one.
A boy discovers a rare baseball card worth $15,000 in a shoebox in an abandoned lot. What does the boy do after his best friend steals it from him?
First of all, I'm just imagining like an abandoned lot with a single shoebox set in the middle of it with a single baseball
right.
card in the shoebox. Like, this is extremely suspicious.
You like open up the box, and there's like a glow coming from the box.
something SpongeBob secret picture Christmas party thing. All right.
Nice. So what do you do after your best friend steals a baseball card worth 15? So the friend has to know this, right? Or is this all just some like huge misunderstanding type thing?
Right, like it could be that the friend is just mean and selfish and like is like, wow, that's $15,000. I'm gonna steal that. But it also could be like the friend like doesn't know that it's worth $15,000 and he just is stealing it as a prank or like
oh, okay. So it's like a prank, and like
just a
the
prank,
friend
bro.
like doesn't like realize anything's going on at all, while this boy is like plotting Home Alone style to like booby trap him and like take it back and stuff, and like the friend is just
right.
completely oblivious to all of this stuff going on and is like thwarting every plot somehow accidentally.
Yeah, no, that's good. Does it say how old this kid is?
No, it does not.
Okay, so it works better if they're like both like teenagers, but like right, like yeah, like this dude is like, oh my gosh, this guy is a mastermind, He perfectly, like, it was total coincidence how he stole it, but he's like, he perfectly executed this amazing plan to distract me and be able to steal this baseball card, and I have to come up with this amazing skin. He enlists like, it's like Ocean's 11. He enlists like all these different people to help him.
They're like all
right,
breaking into his house in the middle of the night.
Yeah, like hacking all his devices. They have like somebody like pretending to meet him to like go undercover and like case his house or whatever.
Yeah.
And they lay out this elaborate plan, and then And you're right. He just like thwarts it accidentally, like every single move. That's pretty funny. I could see a lot of humor in that.
They have to finally get the card back in the end, only to find out by the time they do that, like, all of these identical cards have been discovered in a warehouse or something, and it's now worthless.
They get the card back only to discover that the friend is, like, written some. He, like, oh my gosh, no. He wrote, like, okay, no, ready? This is actually a romance. The friend is actually his girlfriend.
Okay.
And she stole it to propose to him.
Oh,
she wrote "Will you marry me" on the card, making it a totally worthless. Like it's not worth $15,000 anymore.
Oh no. That would be
and it's the type of movie where even though he spent the entire movie thinking that she was evil and plotting against her, as soon as he finds out that it was an accident and she finds out what he's been doing, she's just like, oh, that doesn't matter, and then they just live happily ever after anyway. And he does get married to her because she, from the proposal.
Nice. And the player on the card attends their wedding. That's like the closing scene of the movie. Or he's like the minister, performing the wedding.
Nice.
All right, what do we got next?
Chugging along.
A young man returns from the war in Afghanistan and is celebrated as a war hero. What does his longtime girlfriend do when she discovers that he fell in love with an Afghani woman? It's pretty intense. You've got all the like anti-comedy tropes of like war movie, romance movie, but it's like about cheating. It's like what kind of spin can we possibly do here?
Well, Shakespeare did a lot of comedy love triangles. I'm sure we can come up with something here.
Stealing from our past material, she could have been the Afghani woman all along.
That's literally the first thing I thought of, and I'm like, that makes no sense at all.
She was like trying to meet up with him and surprise him, and then he like falls in love with her, and she can't admit that it's her because of the cheating, like the like the girl in the chicken suit or whatever it was from that other.
Yep. Excuse me.
Oh.
Now here's a legitimate premise.
Okay.
Comedy premise. She also fell in love with someone, and they're both trying to keep secret from each other the fact that they're in love with someone else.
Yeah.
They're both trying to like pretend it's like business as usual, and that they're really bad at it.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm imagining that she's cheating with this guy at home, and like obviously doesn't want him to find out, and he doesn't realize this obviously, but he at least is thinking initially like, oh, this is all going to be fine, like business as usual. And then like as they like hug and then like step apart at the airport, like but right between them you see like walking off from the plane is the Afghani woman, and he like glances over and he's like, oh, we gotta go, like let's get back home. And then she's gotta like the guy is still at home, didn't expect them to go straight there or something. She's gotta like text him to leave, and it's this whole like routine right away to set all that up, that he's like obviously the Afghani woman, and like the guy, the soldier's girlfriend's boyfriend or whatever. Why am I struggling to come up with the name for that guy?
What? You didn't name any of the people.
No. Just like isn't there like a phrase for like the person you're cheating with? Maybe that's just that.
I can't think of anything.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I also feel like I rambled for a long time there with the idea of like there's this comedy chase scene of like he's trying to rush them home to get away from the Afghani woman who's trying to catch up with them. And she is also trying desperately to communicate with the guy who is at their house to, like, say, get out of here.
She's trying to delay them as much as possible.
So, yeah.
That would be pretty funny. And then in the end, they end up together anyway, and the Afghani woman and the guy she was cheating with end up together too.
Exactly, yeah.
Once they fight, it's again the same as the last one where they find out they're cheating. They were both cheating, and they're just like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. We're together still."
Oh man. Let's see. A child develops an addiction to a board game. What is the backstory that explains the sudden addiction?
The board game is smoking crack.
He's started hanging out with this, like, sinister group of friends who are like, it's clearly a euphemism for doing drugs, is like, oh, we're all going to go over to Johnny's house later to play some board games. And the kid is, like, completely oblivious. Is like, hey, Mom, can I go play some board games with these kids? And they're like, she's like, oh, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. Because, like, he never made friends, you know. And, like, all of a sudden he's, like, you know, being social, hanging out with these people. So his mom's, like, really excited. And he just, like, completely does not understand that what he is doing is drugs and not playing a board game. Because he has never had, like, social, you know, just doesn't understand at all. And like, the gang is, like, taking advantage of him. But he's, like, through his sheer just total innocence in everything, he's, like, getting away with all of this ridiculous stuff totally fine.
It sounds like we're just going to end up with a emotionally scarred kid who's addicted to crack, which is kind of depressing. Plus, how could you mistake smoking crack to playing a board game? Like, I feel like you would at least know that a board game involves a board.
Yeah.
But I think that this kid has found, like, one of the, like Jumanji, kind of, where it's like a cursed game. But instead of whatever happens in Jumanji where you go into the game, it's like there's a person inside the game. And so when you play it, you play with this other person, and he's become friends with this other person in the game, which is why he becomes addicted to it and secretive about it.
I had this other idea, which was, as I was going over it in my head, I think I'm basically thinking of exactly the premise of the Queen's Gambit series. You've seen that? Where, like, he discovers a game and turns out to be a prodigy.
Right.
And then, you know, has to battle his way to world supremacy or whatever. And the final shot is him, like, playing the winning move, and, like, his opponent congratulates him and is graciously defeated.
The game is Cones of Dunshire.
Cones of Dunshire. the child is played by Adam Scott.
Adam, yeah.
And everybody just pretends he's a child.
The game. It's about the cones.
Oh man.
I would love to see a movie about the Cones of Dunshire.
Yeah, that would be nice. All right. Let's see. We can probably squeeze in one or two more here. A man.
And we've slowly been spending less and less time on each one.
Well, we're almost certainly going to spend 0 time on this one. A man hiking off trails in a remote mountain discovers a shiny spherical object the size of a small car. What happens when an old man who claims to be the guardian of the object shows up, and what is the object?
Let's just see if we can come up with something totally different from what we did before.
Okay, that's an interesting idea. It could be, let's see, the guardian of the object.
So this old man is obviously crazy, right? Like, he's not really the guardian of the object. He's just a homeless guy who thinks that he's the guardian of the object.
Well, I also think it's possible that he is still crazy, but he is the guardian of the object. It's just like a gigantic tinfoil ball he's been creating out of, like, trash that he's scavenged, you know?
Right.
and there's like it turns out to be his like long lost dad or something, and this is like the
What? Oh no, the guy is his.
the
dad,
guy is
right?
his
I thought
long
you were
lost
saying the
dad.
tinfoil ball was his dad.
No, that's way better. This crazy guy has like kidnapped this guy's dad and trapped him inside a giant tinfoil ball in the middle of the forest, and has been like sustaining him with like through like a little hatch. So like at first he's like, okay, this is just like a crazy guy out in the woods with a ball, but then he hears like a muffled cry for help inside the ball, and he like
It's total coincidence, right? His dad disappeared like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And he just thought that he like walked out on him. And it's just total coincidence that he happened to stumble upon the guy who had kidnapped his dad.
Yeah, so the movie, I don't know how you would get a whole movie about it, but it's essentially like the rescue operation, right? And then he's reunited with his dad, and it's all you know, happily ever after kind of thing.
It wouldn't be the rescue operation because, you know, he would just call the police. It's not like this homeless guy has some kind of, you know, he's not like he's equipped to like deal with a SWAT team.
Maybe there's like maybe he like kidnaps the guy also and like puts him inside the tinfoil ball, and he has to formulate an escape plot with his long lost father.
That's good. Can we like take one moment, and think about how this guy has a like minimum 8-foot in diameter tinfoil ball that's hollow,
strong enough
and
to
somehow
restrain
can't
a person.
be escaped from?
Right. Oh man. One moment. Let's assume that. Let's see. He's hiking off trails in a remote mountain, so there's clearly no like power source out here.
Right.
He must just be maybe he also has like maybe he's also like drugging the people in the tinfoil ball. That makes escape kind of difficult. I'm not really sure, but that's definitely a good question of how do you possibly restrain someone inside a large tinfoil ball. Also, how much tinfoil would that require? Like, your typical roll of tinfoil is like 100 yards of tinfoil, right?
Yeah. Well, it's all aluminum foil, but
aluminum foil.
Right. It's not enough to create it would be this spherical object would be many rolls of tinfoil, aluminum foil.
Oh, I was way off. It's your roll of foil is like best case a couple 100 feet long.
Right.
And only like a foot wide. And like a fraction of a millimeter thick, right?
Right.
Kind of curious now how much tinfoil, or aluminum foil rather, it would take to restrain a person.
Quite a bit, I would think.
I would agree with that.
You can't just wrap them up in it. They could escape. So pretty much, you probably just need like enough aluminum foil to weigh them down so that they can't move. Like that's really probably the most reasonable way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't wrap them like multiple times either, because I don't think you could get a tight enough like join between layers that tearing would not be
right.
Still very easy.
You know what would probably work actually, which would use a lot less tinfoil or aluminum foil, is like kind of roll it up into like little ropes or whatever, like crumple it up into ropes so it's not a sheet, and then like braid them together.
Oh no! Actually, that would
make
be
something.
That'd be. I feel like that'd be very strong. Probably right.
The thing is, it might not be. Honestly, like I could easily see that being very rippable. So I don't know if that would be strong enough, but it'd definitely just be stronger than a single roll.
Well, I mean,
a single sheet.
Aluminum foil really is not all that expensive, and while I personally don't feel the need to test this, if any of our listeners were interested in evaluating the restraining properties of aluminum foil for science, I would be very interested to hear those results and,
Yeah.
potentially subsidize the costs, if you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean, like that's an ambiguous statement.
All right.
All right, I think that we're at an hour now, so we don't need to do any more.
Sure. That sounds good to me. This is, I think, transitioned into a different sort of episode, but probably worked out fine. Let us know if you liked this better than creating a movie, or if you think we should try and expand any of these into a full movie, or if you know what we do a whole lot of this kind of stuff. You know what I want is I want one of the listeners to try and write a movie summary about one of these plot. I mean, you can even take the ideas that we gave you, get your head start there.
Right.
I'm curious if you can write a 2-person movie script that would be, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes long. Alex and I assume you would also be okay with this. We could perform on the podcast the listener's movie script of one of these ideas. So
that's a lot of effort. I don't think any of our listeners will do that, but yeah, we'll definitely perform it if you write it.
Yeah, that's a for sure commitment. So
but yeah, I expect that this will be more enjoyable to listen to than actually creating a movie. But yeah, as you said, send us your thoughts, listeners, about whether it was. I just, the only thing keeping me from doing this again in the future would be I have no idea how many prompts actually exist on the John Fox.
We wouldn't want to cycle through it accidentally. Just use up all of the possible ideas in this format.
Like we spent probably 40 minutes doing this, or really 35 minutes doing this today. So, we definitely could not spend a full hour, I don't think. I think we would just run out. Or get bored of it. So, I think it kind of worked out today, and we'll see if it ever comes back. Okay, I think that's it. Like I said, no episode next week. So, sorry everybody. Anything else I'm forgetting?
I don't think so. That's about it, really.
Great. All right. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Alex.
I'm Alex.
And this has been Joel.